If you just read the bio for Dr. Steve, host of Weird Medicine on Sirius XM 103 and made popular by two really comedy shows, Opie and Anthony and Ron and Fez, you would have thought that this guy was a bit of, a clown.
I've got diphtheria crushing my esophagus. I've got Ebola virus dripping from my nose. I've got the leprosy of the heart valve, exacerbating my incredible woes. I want to take my brain out and blast it with the wave
Well, good evening. Trying another live stream. Cameras are all in the wrong place. I have to completely redo this studio. I realized the mixing board for my other studio was kind of half blown and wasn't working properly. I don't know. I'm not well, maybe I am an idiot. I am a boomer. But I've kept up with technology and why I'm having so much trouble just coming up with a live stream studio. I did buy a brand new digital camera so that I can do Normal World with Dave Landau and do it at broadcast quality. So keep an eye out for those. That's going to be fun, and you can watch that on YouTube. And I don't know how often I'm going to do them. I'm going to do the first one, and once we get the kinks done, I've got like 6 of them ready to go, and they can run them whenever they want to. It's kind of an Ask Dr. Steve thing. So if you have a question that you'd like played on Normal World, send it to me, and then I forward it to Allie. If you remember Allie from the Anthony Cumia show, and she's a big wig over there. And I send it to her, and she either approves it or doesn't. Of course, Dave has something to do with it too. Dave Landau is just a delightful guy. I don't love a lot of people. I love that guy. And he's always just been the nicest person to me and so generous. If you have not seen the Halloween special for Normal World, I mean, they let this person who's never really done anything, a.k.a. me, be the first thing that you see and the very last thing you see on that thing. And that was the most fun, playing the psychiatrist to Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. So if you haven't checked it out, just Google Normal World Halloween special. Anyway, so I have some Patreon questions. I can only do them on my phone because Patreon does not allow chatting and posting comments in the chat anywhere but on your phone, which is ridiculous. How hard would it be to have a module that is accessible from the web? But they say it's coming, but it's just crazy to me. Anyway, number one, and I've answered some of these, but what the hell? And this is from patreon.com/weirdmedicine from Randy. It says 6 months ago, I took 200 milligrams of Viagra, had a basal ganglia stroke. Yikes. I was mentally fucked up for about 45 days, almost back to my normal, except I laugh or cry about nothing. Well, I know what that is. I read an article that low testosterone can lead to stroke. Finally got my new doctor prescribed testosterone. I don't want man boobs. Is there any concern? My testosterone level was 29. Okay. You're more likely to get man boobs from the testosterone level of 29 than you are from replacing it back to a normal level. Just an FYI, Patreon doesn't work well with Android Auto, and I found myself, listening to, and then it doesn't say, then it gets cut off. Listening to the old format. Thanks for considering this question. Absolutely. Okay, so Randy had a stroke. Was it related to the sildenafil that he took? Maybe, but only if he had extremely low blood pressure. If you take sildenafil with certain medications, particularly nitroglycerin, you can end up with blood pressure that's so low that it can cause a heart attack or even a stroke. He had basal ganglia stroke. So he had a stroke in the part of the brain that's actually particularly sensitive to low blood pressure. So anyway, whatever the cause of that, he is now laughing or crying uncontrollably. And that is called pseudobulbar affect. And if you've ever had a person in your life who had dementia and they laugh all the time or they cry all the time, I've had people that just, just laughing and laughing. How are you today? And then you'll ask them, what are you laughing about? And they're like, I don't know. Or crying. Now, the laughing ones are more fun to be around, but it's the same disorder. The crying people kind of bum you out, and the laughing people are kind of fun to be around, but neither one of them can control it, and it's very uncomfortable. So, there's this thing, it's called pseudobulbar affect. Sometimes people with Lou Gehrig's disease or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis will get it as well. It's just characterized as uncontrollable crying or laughing. And let me see, 52% of people with traumatic brain injury, 38% of people with stroke, 46% of people with multiple sclerosis, about a third of people with dementia. But there is medication for it. And the interesting thing is the medication that's out there is a combination of two old school medications. So the branded medicine is pretty expensive, but the original stuff, and that's why I was looking it up here. I believe it is quinidine and dextromethorphan. And they put it together in one branded pill, and it's kind of expensive. And then, but you could prescribe them separately, and they would be unbelievably inexpensive. So, so that's what that is. And what was the other part of his question? Sorry, I've got to do it this way. I can use the computer for everything else. So people who take a lot of testosterone can get a paradoxical estrogen effect because the excess testosterone apparently is converted to estrogen in their system. So you can get gynecomastia if you overdose on testosterone. So don't do that. Take your 28 testosterone, which is extremely low, and just bring it up to a normal level. And that should be relatively symptom-free to do that. Now, people will have concerns about fertility. So if you are a young person with low testosterone, you want to maintain your fertility, there is a drug called clomiphene citrate that you can take. Now, so when the testicles, and this would be for primary testicular failure, the testicles just get lazy and they stop producing testosterone and sperm. If you give those people testosterone, the testicles will get even more lazy. They're like, well, hell, they're already doing my job for me. I don't need to do anything. So, but if you take this clomiphene, it basically kickstarts the testicles to make their own testosterone, so you don't get infertile, and you still produce sperm, but you still are producing your own testosterone. So consider that, young men with low testosterone who want to preserve their fertility. Okay, now let's see here. There's old Terry Boudreau. Hello, Terry. Richard. Richie Rich is in there. Okay. Yeah, you can ask a question. Sure. I just can't see it till I turn around. I'm telling you, this is a nightmare. I'm supposed to be able to see my chat on OBS, but I can't. And I'm supposed to be able to use OBS with StreamYard. But when I do, it flickers. So I've got all kinds of problems. It's not like I've got crappy equipment. I'm not a certain YouTuber who yells at people and has a laptop, a MacBook from, 2012. I have up-to-date equipment, and I'm just having some trouble with it. But anyway, yeah, you can absolutely ask a question. I'll just turn around. Okay, yeah, and then the chat disconnected. I don't know what's going on with YouTube tonight. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for the question, Randy, and I hope that you're doing better. And talk to your doctor about that uncontrollable laughing and crying, because you can absolutely get it treated. I think some of these other ones, I'm taking some meds for essential hypertension, carvedilol twice a day. That's a beta blocker. I'm interested after working with a very cerebral nephrologist who used evidence-based practice and said ACE inhibitors were bad for the kidneys. Well, it just really depends. So ACE inhibitors are a drug that works on the angiotensin renin system. Don't worry about it. But they basically cause low blood pressure or lowering of blood pressure through a specific mechanism that is that works on some hormones that are that the kidneys excrete. It's don't worry about it. It's very technical. If you really want to talk about how ACE inhibitors and angiotensin receptor blockers work, we could do that. But ACE inhibitors are known to do a couple of things. They can raise your potassium, and they can also raise your creatinine, which is a sign of kidney filtration. So if your creatinine's elevated, your kidney filtration is considered to be low. Creatinine is a molecule that's very easily excreted through the urine, and therefore, when you're not excreting things easily through the kidneys anymore, that creatinine will start to rise. And when you get to a creatinine of about 5 to 7, that's when you start thinking about dialysis and things like that. And normal is 1.5 or below, depending on the lab. So, yes, they can do that. But there's also really good data in certain syndromes, and diabetes is one of them, that the ACE inhibitor actually protects the kidneys from progressing into frank renal failure. So you can prevent people or prolong their amount of time off of dialysis with an ACE inhibitor. So it just depends on the situation. So ACE inhibitors are not per se bad for the kidneys. If they were, we wouldn't prescribe them. They're very effective medications for low blood pressure. For hypertension, for high blood pressure, and they're very effective for lowering blood pressure. And you can monitor these things. That's why we do blood work every 3 to 6 months in people who are taking all these different medications. And, ACE inhibitors can be coupled with a diuretic. Those things can cause some strain on the kidneys as well. Most people take them just fine. And the benefit from lowering the blood pressure generally outweighs the risk of renal failure with these things. All right. I hope that helps. All right. I'm going to try something here. I have an interesting story, and I just want to make sure that this is working. Okay, well, Donna wants to know, how does low blood pressure cause a stroke? So let me go back to this first. So low blood pressure can cause a stroke because the brain needs blood flow. And if you have a little bit of narrowing of the vessels and then your blood pressure drops, you don't get enough blood going to the brain, you can tick off. And when I mean tick off, I mean kill brain cells. And if you kill enough brain cells, it's a stroke. And, really even killing one is sort of a stroke, but we're usually talking about killing clumps of cells in the brain so that they lose their function, but that's how. All right, let's try this and see if this works. So this news story is about cannabinoids. You guys know I like off-label drugs and off-label uses of things that otherwise people think are naughty, and this is one of those, cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are molecules that stimulate the cannabinoid receptors in the body, and they're named cannabinoid receptors because cannabis is a molecule, THC and other active ingredients in the cannabis plant stimulate these cannabinoid receptors. So they have a purpose. They're there, which means we have our own endogenous, in other words, are created inside our bodies, cannabinoids. We just don't have them in quantities that make us high, which is too bad. It'd be kind of cool if you could just tell your body, let's crank up the cannabinoids so I can have a fun Saturday night. But this is from the Journal of Natural Products 2022. Cannabinoids block cellular entry of SARS-CoV-2 and the emerging variants. Well, isn't that something? As a complement to vaccines, small molecule therapeutic agents are needed to treat or prevent infections by severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. How many times have I said that on the show? If you go back to my COVID sit reps back in 2020 and 2021, I was saying at that time that we need therapeutics, that vaccines aren't going to get us through this thing. A therapeutic would be the answer that would even obviate the need for a vaccine. We don't need to expose ourselves to a vaccine if we had a pill that we could take that would keep us out of the hospital or keep us from dying. And so that's what they're talking about. They're saying, yes, vaccines alone aren't all. And for the YouTube algorithm, you know, the COVID vaccine is very safe and effective and prevents disease and transmission of disease. I have to say that. So affinity selection mass spectrometry was used. That's awesome. We'll talk about that in a minute. For the discovery of botanical ligands to the spike protein. So what they did was they basically used a tool to look at the molecules in the spike protein and looked for other molecules that are already available in the plant world that might bind to that spike protein, keep it from attaching. That's basically what they're looking for. Cannabinoid acids from hemp, cannabis sativa. Oh, wait, I need this. Were found to be allosteric as well as orthosteric ligands. Well, you know, hooty-hoo, that's... with micromolar affinity for the spike protein. So I'm trying to remember what orthosteric means. Let's look it up. Hang on. Hey, hang on. Amanda, you're on Weird Medicine.
I sure am.
So,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not really, right?
Yeah, no, you are. Yeah, I'm live streaming.
Oh,
right
God.
now.
Okay.
Did you?
Well, I've got live music playing.
That's, oh, God.
Yeah.
Wasted.
Okay. So, okay. My question is about...
Well, that's because you're an idiot.
Physical things that happen from your brain because you're full of anxiety or...
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anxiety. We can't...
I gotta turn my other shit down.
It's all right. You can't separate mind from body.
Yeah, I'm not used to live radio.
That's okay. You can't separate mind from body. It's absolutely true. So if you have a lot of adrenaline pumping into your system from your body, it's going to cause stress in your brain. Same thing with cortisone. These are stress hormones. Adrenaline is the, fight or flight hormone.
Fight or flight, yeah.
Yeah. And and then thinking about things that cause stressful images in your head will cause adrenaline to be released and cortisone to be released. So you cannot separate the two things. And, stress causes...
Do you separate the two things
well,
of, like, actual medical
sure.
situations?
Okay.
Or, like, stuff you're so powerful, you just make it up in your head. And then
yeah, absolutely.
You've got crazy things going on.
Well, the whole universe is kind of in our head, right? I mean, these electromagnetic waves aren't really red and purple and stuff. That's just the way our brain interprets it. So,
how do you know when to seek medical help, and how do you know when to just like chill?
Yeah, so a couple of things. If you have a vicious cycle, in other words, you have an thought that causes anxiety, which causes adrenaline, which causes a physical manifestation, which makes your mental manifestation worse, which then makes your physical manifestation worse. Anytime,
it's a terrible cycle.
Right. Anytime you have a vicious cycle, if you break one half of the cycle itself will go away.
Reality.
So one way that you can do that is by breaking the mental cycle, the mental half of that, and that is doing things like square breathing, or
what's a square breathing?
Oh boy, I'm so glad you asked. Let's talk about it so that people can get some benefit out of this. So square breathing is a breathing technique that will break a panic attack 100% of the time if you do it right, okay? And this is the key, is you're going to inhale. Do it with me. Inhale for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then hold it for 4 beats.
It's like
3,
that
4. Now,
the app that you have.
Yes, it's like the Trip app. They do a form of square. Really cool. They do a form of square breathing in there.
I'm trying to be a commercial.
and they do 4-7-9 breathing in there too. There's all kinds of things that you can do. But when you do that square breathing, you can either be inhaling for 1/4 of the time, or you can be
just 4 beats,
or you can be exhaling for 1/4 of the time. But you cannot hyperventilate if you're only.
I tried that with a friend the one time that was having a panic attack, and he did end up hyperventilating.
And he did what?
Because I guess I didn't suggest the right beat.
No, but you have to do it for it's the same thing.
I was like, in through your nose, out through your mouth.
No, it's the same as breathing into a paper bag. You're increasing your carbon dioxide.
Or like, put your head between your knees kind of thing.
No, not sort of, but
I'm just,
all that does, putting your head between your knees keeps you from fainting. But if you will do this for 1 minute, but you've got to do it right. You have to actually inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4. And if you do that, you can only be inhaling or exhaling 1/4 of the time.
It's a 16-beat loop.
And it will, right. Yes, that's correct. And it will absolutely, arrest a panic attack. It makes you
focus on something.
That's right. That's part of it, too.
Yes.
It increases your carbon dioxide level, which was decreased while you were hyperventilating. But you're right. It also forces you to concentrate on something other than the thing that's causing you anxiety. And
that's hard.
It's better than Valium. Really, it works faster and it works more effectively.
The drugs suck.
Yeah, the drugs suck. They really do. But anyway.
Yeah,
all right.
They really do.
All right, call me later.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Goodness gracious. I don't remember what we were talking about. Oh, okay. Orthosteric is an adjective that describes the primary binding site of a ligand on a receptor. Okay, well then what's the allosteric then? I know all of the biochemists are yelling at me. Let's see. Allosteric. Oh, okay. Allosteric versus orthosteric. Oh, that's a good one. Let's do that. Okay. 2 types of drugs on the market. Orthosteric, which bind at the active site, and allosteric, which bind elsewhere on the protein surface, and change the conformation. Oh, change the configuration of the site. Okay, so if it's orthosteric, it's just going to bind to the spike protein, and if it's allosteric, it's going to bind to the side of it, but change the shape of the protein so that it can't bind anymore. Very good. All right, I'm glad we looked that up. I didn't want to just blast through that and act like I knew what it meant. Okay, so, but this is very technical, but it says importantly, certain cannabis molecules were equally effective against the SARS-CoV-2 alpha variant, B117, and the beta variant, beta 1.351. Wow. These cannabinoids, isolated or in hemp extracts, have the potential to prevent as well as treat infection by SARS-CoV-2. Now, am I advocating that people just toke up to prevent COVID? No, because I am not worried about COVID very much anymore, but I just thought that was interesting that this is an off-the-shelf thing that may have had some efficacy for some people. It would be really interesting to do a population study, see if pot smokers were less, pot smokers that were regular smokers during the pandemic. This would be a real easy study to do. Did they have less symptomatic COVID-19 than the rest of the population? Now, that would be an interesting study. Anyway, all right. Now, the other thing I like to do sometime is just scan the medical news and see if there's just anything stupid. And I actually found a couple of interesting things. So here's a blood test may detect early signs of Alzheimer's in the brain. Now, this would be awesome. The problem with this is, I don't need you. Nothing we can do about it. If we had a medication that, oh gosh, I've got, incipient Alzheimer's that was detected early on a screening test, and I can take this pill and it will stave it off, that would be awesome. But we don't have that. But hopefully we will at some point. It says the diagnostic tests that exist can be invasive, expensive, and time-consuming. Yeah, and they're inaccurate too. Development of a simple early diagnostic test could help target the use of new Alzheimer's drugs. Well, that's true. Now, just like COVID-19, remdesivir was a little disappointing in the hospital with really sick people. Turns out it's amazing if you give it to people before they end up in the hospital. And it prevents hospitalization about 90% of the time in high-risk people with no regard to the variants. It's variant independent, so it's pretty cool. Let's see here. Okay, we know why it's crucial. What's the blood test, though? I want to see what this blood test is. In 2023, a blood test for detecting amyloid beta protein was developed and made available by a company called AD Detect. They also created the ALZ path p-tau 217 assay, which is only available to researchers, okay? So now what we got to see is if people who have an elevated amyloid beta or tau proteins, do they then have a higher risk of developing Alzheimer's down the road? And so we'll see. And the problem is, clinical diagnosis of Alzheimer's remains challenging. If you know it when you see it, but when you see it and you know that that's what it is, it's already pretty far down the road. So anyway, I'm not impressed by this yet, but maybe we will be. Show me that you can detect it early and then prevent its onset, and I'm all into it. Let's see. Artificial intelligence may help diagnosing children with ADHD. Half of adults don't know heart disease is the nation's leading cause of. Who cares what they know? I'm not sure that really matters. Statins lower dementia risk in people with heart failure. I got to show that one to Dr. Scott because he is a big anti-statin person, even though we all know that the number needed to treat to prevent one heart attack is pretty high, but it does have data that shows pretty conclusively that it reduces heart attack and stroke in high-risk individuals with high cholesterol. Weight loss rarely leads to type 2 diabetes remission in real-world setting. Well, it depends on how much weight loss you're talking about. I have seen people completely resolve their type 2 diabetes, but it also depends on how they lose weight. People on a low glycemic index diet, that's brown bread, brown pasta, brown rice, and then no other carbs really, or people on a lower carbohydrate diet without the spikes who actually lose weight can sometimes come off of their medications. Now, if they're already insulin dependent, they may have pancreatic failure at that point because the pancreas may have burned out. they're not going to resolve at that point. And I bet that's what this is. So let's see. Obesity is a factor in diabetes. Okay. Does weight loss send diabetes into remission in real-world settings? A group of researchers from the Chinese University of Hong Kong conducted an analysis of data for patients enrolled in this study, and they looked at 37,000 people with type 2 diabetes who were enrolled in the program within a year of diagnosis and followed up until 2019. They looked at weight loss and whether or not weight loss had been sustained in blood glucose measurements. And defining remission from diabetes as 2 consecutive measurements of a blood marker for a high glucose, which is called hemoglobin A1C of under 6.5, 6 months apart. So what they're saying is you had to be off medication and have a low hemoglobin A1C, which is a marker of average blood sugar over the last 150 days approximately. And so people with a body mass index of over 15 or over 50 were excluded. That's probably smart because those people are in a different group altogether. They found that just 6.1% of people enrolled in the study remained in remission from type 2 diabetes at the 8-year landmark. People who had lost 10% or more body weight in the year following the diagnosis were over 3 times as likely to be in remission at the end of their follow-up. So 5 to 9% of their body weight, twice as likely, and under 5% had only a marginally better chance of being in remission. So 10%, what they're talking about is if you weigh 300 pounds, you got diabetes, and you lose 30 pounds, then those people were 3 times more likely to be in remission. I'm talking about getting to your ideal body weight. And I have seen this happen where people come off all their medication. Type 2 diabetes can be a completely curable illness, but it is very difficult to do, and you have to really just stick to this regimen of lower carbohydrate and decrease the number of calories that you're taking in over time, increasing your exercise, and really getting back into close to your ideal body weight and being healthier through exercise, and then you can do it. But it is difficult. And again, even then, not everybody can do it. If they've already burned out their pancreas, they can't. So anyway, all right, let's see what else we have here, if there's anything else interesting. Let me look and see if there are any questions. I'm going to turn my back on the camera because I can't see the chat over here. Let's see what we got. Oh, there. Golden George says there was an ad for drinking when he signed on. Okay. James Boyd, welcome to the Fluid family, my friend. Well, there's a lot more chat stuff over here than I thought. This is from James Boyd. Isn't the modern vaccine more correctly considered a form of gene therapy before the definition change? Not really. And I'll tell you why. What you're talking about, he's talking about the mRNA. Isn't that really gene therapy? You're not really changing the person's genetic structure. What you're doing is you're inserting a foreign set of instructions and co-opting the cell, just like a virus does, co-opting the cell to make the protein that you want it to make. So the messenger RNA, I should do an animation on this because it's a really amazing process. Messenger RNA inculcates itself into the cell, and then it is run through the instructions that are in the messenger RNA are run through a micro machine called ribosomes, and the ribosomes interface with this transcription RNA, and they make a protein. That's all it is. It's a little factory for making proteins, and once that RNA is run through those ribosomes, it may survive long enough to do it a few more times, and then the cells break it up and use those nucleic acids to make more RNA for some other purpose. But the protein that comes off of the ribosome that was created by reading the instructions on the messenger RNA then is expressed on the surface of the cell. And then the surface of the cell sees those proteins. The immune system sees those proteins on the surface of the cell, and then it forms humoral, which is antibodies, and cellular immunity against those proteins. So now when it sees it, it will attack the virus, the live virus. So in that sense, you could just inject people with those spike proteins. But if you do that, they don't live very long. The cool thing about the mRNA, and listen, I know there's issues with it, but the technology, I'm just talking about how the cool technology, is that it looks to the body more like a viral infection, so that the body makes better immune response than it would if you just injected a bunch of these spike proteins into somebody, which would be what you would consider a traditional vaccine. So instead of injecting the proteins, you're injecting RNA and getting the cells to make the vaccine for you. And the problem is not so much the mRNA. The problem is coronaviruses, our bodies, they evolved so that they can just mutate a little bit, they can infect us again. There's 5 other coronaviruses out there besides SARS-CoV-2, and I'm not including MERS and the original SARS. But 5 that are just floating around. They're endemic. They have been for maybe hundreds of thousands of years. And they have sort of figured out our immune system so that when we get infected, we infect a couple other people, and then we don't die. Usually it just causes a cold. And then, 4 to 6 to 12 to 24 months later, they could infect us again. It's a pain in the ass. Influenza's done the same thing. But at least with influenza, when I got swine flu in the 70s, I didn't get swine flu when it came around again a few years ago. So that immunity is pretty long-lasting. But the coronavirus antibodies just disappear. And that's the problem with this thing. And so I always said, again, therapeutics better than vaccines when it comes to coronaviruses. And, when they did the cat coronavirus study, vaccine studies, when the cats were exposed to the coronavirus, again, they died through a thing called immune activation. And I've always said that if someone came to me and said, I'm concerned about the cat studies with immune activation, I would understand that. I totally understand why people would be hesitant to take the vaccine for that reason. The good news is we've never seen that in humans. The bad news is this vaccine does seem to prevent some people at risk from ending up dead, but it's a pretty leaky vaccine. I mean, I've had COVID twice. The first time it took out 1/8 of my lung, and the second time I sailed through it a little bit better. But I'm fully vaccinated. I've the whole series, all the boosters and all that stuff. So, but what saved me the second time was Paxlovid. Again, a therapeutic, a pill that you can take to prevent yourself from ending up in the hospital. So, all right, let's see what other questions we have here. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, and now I'm caught up. Funny, there was an ad for drinking less when I signed on. Okay, Stream Elements is going crazy and banning people and stuff. I'm sorry it's doing that. I don't know how to show a message. So Corey H. sent a message and then Stream Elements deleted it. I'm sorry about that. I have to fix that. Let me see. Nescab says, hello, Dr. Steve. I love your guts. Okay, that's got to be Patty. Love Square Breathing. When you have chest pain from stress and anxiety, what is physically going on? Is your heart having spasm? That's from Donna P. Sometimes when you have actual chest pain, you may be having a decreased blood flow to parts of your heart. It's called angina. And if that persists and starts to kill heart tissue, we call that a myocardial infarction. So if you're actually having chest pain, then you should seek medical attention. We don't fiddle or fart around with chest pain. Let's see. Wouldn't take my question. I sent it to Patreon. Yeah, Terry, it'll take your question. Just put it in here. Hey, Doc, did you know that the spike proteins of COVID have elbows that bends the spikes? Okay, that's from John Doe. I did not know that. Looks like Corey got another message deleted. And what the hell is going on? Okay, I have to turn the chat bot off. I'm sorry. Dr. Kaku sends his regards. Thank you, Nescab. Jake Hudson. Hello, Jake Husden. Hello, my friend. It's one of Tuki's super fans, and it's good to see you on my live stream. What is the I word's efficacy against COVID in your opinion? Well, all right. Let's just find out. How about that? Oops. And now what have I done? I have, sorry about this. Maybe I'll delete all this out. Are we still on? Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, we're still on. Sorry. Let's go here. And I think this will work. And we'll go to clinicaltrials.gov. Or no, I'll tell you what, let's go to PubMed. And we will look at the I word and see what, if any, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies have finally been published on its efficacy. Now, the thing is, I don't care so much about it now because we have molnupiravir and we have Paxlovid. Now, what I do care about is people characterizing people who thought that maybe the I word would be effective against this virus were crazy. They were not crazy. This medication has known antiviral properties, and wouldn't it have been nice if we could just pull something off the shelf and take it and not have to go through all the research that we did to get Paxlovid on the stage 2 years later? Would have been really nice. So that's why. And the other thing is that, I think it was University of California, San Francisco had an AI that could look at the spike protein and then identify drugs that might block it. And one of those was azithromycin, and another one was the I word. So those people are not crazy. The I word is a human drug. It pisses me off that I have to call it the I word so that I don't get a content strike on my YouTube channel. I already got one of those for talking about research on the I word. And it is a human drug. It's very well tolerated. It has known antiviral and anti-helminthic properties, meaning it will kill worms and stuff. So to say that Joe Rogan was taking horse paste is disgustingly disingenuous. The people who wrote that either were stupid or they knew and they said it anyway just to try to make him look bad to the general public. So people could go, ha, 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 he took horse paste. Okay? It's not. Yeah, it can be used in animals. It can be used in veterinary medicine, but it's also one of the most widely prescribed drugs in the world for parasites. But again, it has known antiviral properties, which is why people were thinking maybe that it might be worth something. So let's see here. Let me see if I can find anything. Okay, well, this is, a Peruvian study, the use of the I word and factors associated with the prevention or treatment of COVID-19. It says most people used the I word during the second wave of COVID-19. Main factors associated with use for prevention or treatment were age greater than 50 years. Okay, so they were just looking, and actually people having a technical education level. Isn't that interesting? Not just dumbasses, which is what we were told. It was people with a technical education level having had symptoms with blah, 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 or contact with people. So this doesn't look at efficacy. They were just looking at who was actually going out and buying that stuff and taking it. So, okay, so let's go here and let's put efficacy in as one of our key words, and maybe this will help guide us. to a now look at the studies here. 2020 there were a few studies. 21, 22, even more studies. 58 articles published. Then 23 down to 25. So let's see here. Efficacy and safety of the I word in patients with mild COVID-19 in Japan and Thailand. Okay, now this has a free article. This is from Journal of Infectious Chemotherapy, and their conclusion was the results show that the I word as a treatment for patients with mild COVID-19 was ineffective. However, its safety has been confirmed. It was safe, just not effective in those patients that they studied. Now, there may be a subset of people that it's very effective for. We just don't know what it is yet. And the thing is that, as I said, I no longer, it's like, I don't care now about ivermectin as a therapeutic, because we have known therapeutics. We have remdesivir, Paxlovid, molnupiravir. And that was what we wanted. We wanted therapeutics that if people got sick, they go get a prescription at their doctor, they take it, they don't end up in the hospital, they don't die. That's what we were looking for. We have that. So I don't care so much about this, but what I do care about is the shoddy journalism that smeared people who were at least, asking, can we look at this? Now, if you want to just see who was taking this seriously, let's go to clinicaltrials.gov. And we're going to look at, I'm going to get a content strike again, but it's whatever. Why are we still talking about this? So let's look at COVID-19, and then the intervention would be the I word. Oh, it comes right up. Isn't that interesting? And let's click search. And, 91 studies. 91 studies. These were funded studies. Oh, look at this. Effectiveness of the I word as add-on therapy in COVID-19 management. SARS-CoV-2 pre-exposure prophylaxis. Wouldn't that be cool? You got exposed to somebody and you take ivermectin and it prevents you from getting it. I don't know. We'll have to see what the studies show. Ivermectin nasal spray, ivermectin treatment of COVID. 91 studies. These people aren't all idiots. These aren't, guys going to the farm store and buying horse or pig ivermectin or taking it from an aquarium. These are real researchers doing real studies that were funded by someone. Some of these were funded by the NIH, I'm going to guess. So, okay. So it wasn't crazy that they thought that. The thing is that I don't like the smears that happen. That thinking needs to be corrected. We need to have real journalism and not this sort of whatever emotional, we're going to pick a side kind of thing. And I always said that people who are rooting against things like azithromycin or the I word, that were actively rooting against it working because they didn't like the people who were proposing it or what they thought, then those people were part of the problem, because we needed to look at everything. And some of this stifled or, not only conversation, but research itself. So anyway, all right, let's see what else we got. You got me on a dang soapbox, you bastard. Okay, let's see. Oh, thank you, Jake. He just tweeted out the stream. Thank you. And you used to have one of my poker chips. Well, send me your address. If used to, I will give you some more. I'm assuming I gave you some at a live WATP event, which, by the way, the next one I'm going to be at is March 22nd in Tampa at in Largo, Florida. And if you are going to that, I'll bring tchotchkes and stuff and I'll hand them out. But come say hello. I'll buy you a beer unless you're underage or sober, in which case a hearty handshake is in your future. There you go. Now, Golden George says, well, people were actually taking horse paste. Okay, maybe. That may be that they were taking that particular preparation. I don't know. I'm not aware of that. I do know that there were some people that were going to farm stores and buying antibiotics. I mean, heck, you used to be able to buy Sudafed at the farm store by the pound and cook up some good, Heisenberg level meth. Can't do that anymore. Okay, let me see. Didn't the I-word craze spike the pricing of it and take it out of the hands of people who needed it for more important things? That's from Golden George. I'm not sure that that's true. I don't know. I do know that using some of the diabetes drugs for obesity, for weight loss, did take some of those drugs out of the hands of diabetics. That is an absolute fact. And but I did not. Let me see if I can find price streak, or let me see. How would we look at that? Prices of the I word from 2019 to present. Sorry, I'm at an angle. I'm having a hard time typing. There you go. Okay. Let's see if this thing will generate a graph for us. Costs and prescribing patterns of antihelminthics in the United States. Let's see if that's what this is about. This is from 2022. Recent price increases in medications used to treat helminth infections have demonstrated impacts on Medicaid and immigrant patient populations. Well, you may be right, George. I wasn't aware of this. Helminth infections are common, helminth worms, common within the U.S. military. However, anti-helminthic prescription patterns and costs have not yet been investigated in this patient population. So they are making an assumption that it was people taking it for SARS-CoV-2, but the prices of everything are up right now. Let me see if they ascribed it to anything. Well, it's mebendazole and praziquantel. I'm not even seeing them talk about ivermectin here. And people were not taking those. So it may be that a journalist saw anti-helminthic and made the jump that it was ivermectin, and these horrible people who were taking ivermectin when they shouldn't, quote unquote, shouldn't have been. But this article is actually about price jumps in two other drugs that were not used for SARS-CoV-2. So I don't know, dude. I don't know the answer to that. And I've lost my screen again. I keep doing something. Let me see if there's anything else. I did read that the price spiked during COVID. I've not seen if it's returned. Yeah, Golden George, I'll stay on that. I'll look at that some more. And Ivaste Jill, I'm sorry that the chat bot keeps deleting your. I have no idea what you're saying, so I'm going to turn that off eventually. One thing that you can do, try this over there, is do spike. I'm not spike. Exclamation point, and then the number 8, and then ball, and say is. Let's see. I don't know. Well, I'm trying to think of something that isn't just going to piss somebody off. Is Ness Cab Patty Blue ? Okay, and the chat bot is there it is, and it says the 8-ball says forget about it. So anyway, you can goof around with that. There's some other exclamation point things that the chat bot will play with you while you're in there when you're bored listening to me, which really should probably be all the time. Anyway, I wondered if you guys, hey, check this out. There's the new neon sign that we have in here. It's actually an LED sign, and I'm very happy about it. Came from Vietnam, actually. And it took 2 months to get here. I sent them the design, and then they sent me that thing. They said, what colors do you want? And I said, sort of sickly yellow and sickly green. And then there they did it. So I can't zoom in. I can't do anything. But I did tell you that I bought new cameras. So I'm very excited about that. These cameras are going to be placed somewhere else. and so that it looks more like a regular TV show, and I'm not a million miles away from it. Anyway, all right. I think, King of all diffs. Hello, my friend. Oh, I know his name. I can dox him. Jesus. King of all diffs is one of the people that won a VIP ticket to the WATP event. We had 2. They've already been won by people from the Fluid family. But the next thing, I'll have 2 or 3 more. And, put your hat in the ring if you'd like to win one of those. So I will see King of all diffs and Tampa. And then you can dox him because he'll be the one sitting with me, one of the people. Let's see here. Yep. Hey, thanks, Barb Parrish. Thank you, my friend. Barb is one of my bestest friends. And, okay, John Doe says, okay, index help. I don't know. Yeah, never mind. It's not working. Nescab says, what mic am I using? These are CAD E100s. I had 3 CAD E100s, and for me, I had a CAD E300, and found that it sounded so much better than the E100s, I had to get rid of it. So I put it on eBay. But anyway, I appreciate you all hanging out with me tonight, and I think getting slightly better at this, but it's going to get better. I'm going to get good at it eventually, and I am going to be watch for. I will let you guys know about my Ask Dr. Steve segments on Normal World, and tomorrow, which is Saturday, the 20. What will it be? The 27th. I'll be on WATP, probably shitting the bed because I'm not a funny person, and I'm not 100% sure what Carl wants me to do. Chris had also asked me to be on the final chapter of Easy for You to Say, and I begged off of that one. But I am going to be on WATP tomorrow, so check that out. And if you want to come to Tampa, there's still a few tickets left. Go to WATPlive.com, and hopefully I won't do a terrible job like I did in Detroit. Well, I got a couple of laughs in Detroit. The problem in Detroit was I thought my friends were dead on the side of the road because they weren't at the event. They had been there, and then they weren't there, and they weren't answering their phone, and they weren't answering my texts, and their Life 360 was turned off. And we were in downtown Detroit. I just imagined that they were deceased, so I'm trying to be funny and tell jokes while the whole time I'm just thinking, what's happened to my friends. So hopefully nothing like that will happen this time. I'll be a little bit freer to be funny if I can. And, Cardiff Electric usually helps, and I have a couple other comedians that will help me write some material. I'm not a funny person, but I kind of know what's funny, so I can do okay if I've got some decent material. And I write about half of the stuff. So anyway, the Jenny Jingles complimentary pap smear joke was 100% mine, as were about half of the jokes in the Creep Off Roast. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out our Patreon. You can sign up for free, but you can only hear the Creep Off Roast segment if you're an actual member. But memberships start, it's like $5. It's not a lot, and if you want to just sign up just to poke around and download some stuff and then unsign up, that's fine. I'm not doing it for money. I just wanted to have some stuff behind a paywall so I could put whatever I wanted to up there. Anyway, well, listen, take care, everyone. I love you more than a friend, and I'm really happy that you hung out with me tonight. And we'll see you hopefully next Friday night. Take care.